our 7-day itinerary of the famous 5 leaves Hurghada, sailing south to dive the Salem Express and the Brothers Islands, before a 12-hour overnight sail north to Ras Mohammed National Park, west of Sharm el-Sheikh. Here we dive the Anemone, Shark, and Yolanda reefs before heading west to the world famous Thistlegorm wreck. We sail west across the Goobel Strait to Small Goobel Island to dive a few wrecks including the Rosalie Moller, sister ship of the Thistlegorm. We head south, back towards Hurghada, to dive with the Dolphins and drift dives at Gamar and Small Gifton Island. Including 2 nights dives, we complete a total of 20 dives on this Amazing itinerary. Are we ready to do this? The kit's ready! Time for the dive briefing with our fabulous dive guides, H, Ahmed, and Tracy. The MV Salem Express is a tragic Red Sea shipwreck near Safaga, Egypt, where over 470, likely over 1,600, pilgrims died after hitting a reef. Lying on its starboard side in 1032 meters of water, this 115-meter-long ferry is a solemn popular dive site, considered a maritime tomb with a fascinating, eerie cargo. While approaching Safarga at midnight in rough weather, the master took a shortcut which was not authorized for night passage. The ship ran aground on a coral reef between 6 to 10 miles offshore. The reef ripped a hole in the forward starboard bow and knocked open the ship's bow door, allowing seawater into the car deck. MV Salem Express was an Egyptian-French passenger ship that sank in the Red Sea. It is notable due to the heavy loss of life which occurred when she sank shortly after striking a reef at around 11:13 p.m. on December 14, 1991. The majority of passengers were Moroccan French. Most were returning from pilgrimage to Mecca. Dives to the shipwreck confirm the holiday mood of the ship, with luggage packed with gifts for family members. Pilgrims returning from Mecca were dressed in fine clothes to celebrate. The Brother Islands are a world-famous scuba diving destination. It offers some of the best diving in Egypt and in Red Sea. These 2 small islands, Little Brother and Big Brother, are famous for their wonderful pristine coral as well as being one of the best places in Egypt to dive with sharks. Here you can encounter the oceanic white-tip shark, schooling hammerhead sharks, as well as gray reef sharks and silver-tip sharks. However, our dive today had to be aborted due to the strong currents. The Numidia is a former 130-meter-long British cargo ship that sunk on its way to India in 1901. Sadly, it was only its 2nd trip. The Numidia was carrying locomotives wheels that can still be found. The Numidia wrecks now lies almost vertically on the steep reef slope, with the top being at 8 meters and the stern being very deep at around 80 meters. The Numidia is rightfully considered one of the finest wrecks in the world. Its original size and splendid corals create an unparalleled atmosphere underwater. Remains of its cargo and bow can already be found at a depth of 10 meters on top of the reef, which is so full of hard and soft corals that this alone is reason enough to dive here. At a depth of about 20 meters, the central superstructures, the cabins, and the remains of the Bridge A start to grow out of the reef. The wooden planking has rotted in the course of time, and the steel frame along with the railings and davits form a wonderful photo opportunity. The main deck begins at a depth of 40 meters behind the superstructures, and the openings to the holds 3A and 4A are clearly visible. Shark Reef and Yolanda Reef are rated as one of the top 10 dives in the world and is perhaps the most famous dive site of the Ras Mohammed National Park. The 2 reefs rise up from untold depths to the surface, making a breathtaking, stunning, and dramatic topography. The dive is completed as a drift dive and is normally started in the direction of Shark Reef to Yolanda. With this dive, it is important to be quick on the entry, as otherwise it is possible to drift on the surface and miss the most amazing wall. It is a sheer drop down to 800 meters plus. Hanging out on the wall are snappers, batfish, barracuda, and many more, especially when they mass together in the July-August peak period. It's like diving in fish soup. The current takes you around to the saddle, the connecting reef between two vast pinnacles. The dive finishes on the remains of the wreck of the Yolanda. This dive can be a roller coaster ride of currents which turn every which way during the dive, but it is an adrenaline-pumping, awesome experience. Anemone City, as the name implies, is home to hundreds of anemones and their clownfish guardians. This site was dived from one of the Zodiac boats and dived with Shark Reef. We jump in at Anemone, have a look at the colony of clownfish and the coral-encrusted large anchor before heading seemingly out into the blue water and beyond. It appears you are in the middle of nowhere surrounded completely by deep blue water, and then all of a sudden you will see the mammoth wall of Shark Reef appearing in the midst of the inky blue water. The SS Thistlegorm is one of the most famous wrecks in the world. Built in 1940, the SS Thistlegorm was a 126-meter-long freighter, carrying military equipment during the World War II. The wreck attracts many divers for the amount of the cargo that can be seen and explored. There was a large buildup of Allied troops in Egypt during September 1941, and German intelligence suspected that there was a troop carrier in the area bringing in additional troops. 2 Heinkel aircraft were dispatched to find and destroy the troop carrier. This search failed, but one of the bombers discovered the ships moored in safe anchorage F. Targeting the largest ship, they dropped 2 2.5-ton high explosive bombs on Thistlegorm, both of which struck hold forward near the stern of the ship at 01:30 on 6th October. The bomb and the explosion of some of the ammunition stored in hold 4 led to the sinking of Thistlegorm with the loss of 4 sailors and 5 DEMS gunners. The survivors were picked up by HMS Carlisle. The massive explosion that sank her had blown much of her midship superstructure away and makes the wreck very accessible to divers. The depth of around 30 meters at its deepest is ideal for diving without the need for specialist equipment and training. In the early 1950s, Jacques Cousteau discovered her by using information from local fishermen. He raised several items from the wreck, including a motorcycle, the captain's safe, and the ship's bell. The February 1956 edition of National Geographic clearly shows the ship's bell in place and Cousteau's divers in the ship's lantern room. Cousteau The Ulysses wreck, a 95 meters long cargo vessel, was built in 1871 in Newcastle, England. In 1887, it was sunk after hitting the Gobel Segir Reef. Although the Ulysses is more than 100 years old, it's still very interesting because of the abundance of marine life that surrounds it. The wreck is sitting on his backside, with her stern lying at 27 meters almost intact, and a broken bow that lies at a depth of 6 meters. The vessel is wide open, and divers can enter the vessel and explore it. The rudder and propeller are still in place and are the most photogenic parts of the wreck. Very calm conditions are needed to dive in this wreck because currents can be quite severe and large surface swells make it impossible to moor dive boats. The wooden deck has long since disappeared, leaving only the skeleton of the ship's iron deck supports. This allows easy penetration into the wreck. The interior of the wreck is encrusted with extensive marine growth. The aftermost part of the ship is the most complete, with her propeller and rounded stern leading up to the ship's engines located approximately amidships. The main deck still has bits, chocks, and other equipment mounted on it. Located on the seabed around the wreck are also bits and pieces from the ship, including a bathtub. This area is subject to strong currents, so the best way to dive this wreck is to drop in up current and descend to the ship, then seek shelter on the lee side of the ship where the current drops off it. The Bluff Point dive site is located near the small island of Gubal, north of Hurghada. It is famous for its wreck, known as Gubal Barge or simply the Bluff Point Wreck. The history of the wreck is unknown, but according to the locals, it was a barge that sank in 1973 during the Arab-Israeli War. There isn't much left of the wreck itself, only some fragments of the hull that are partially covered with dark, grainy sand. However, the attraction of this dive site is that it offers wonderful night diving opportunities with an amazing array of marine creatures that made this wreck their home. We'll dive the barge for our next night dive. Love the clownfish coming to say hello. This is an easy dive site with little current and a gently shelving, sandy bottom with depths of 14 to 20 meters. Middle Reef in Safaga is a large mushroom-shaped reef known for its extensive hard coral gardens, labyrinthine swim-throughs, and sandy 30-meter deep southern slope. Located between Panorama Reef and Abu Kafan, this boat-accessible site is popular for drift dives, featuring anemones, reef sharks, turtles, and occasional pelagics. For our first night dive, we dive to just 15 meters and swim through the numerous pinnacles which create an eerie backdrop. The Rosalie Moller is a 108-meter-long British steamship sunk in 1941, located in the Red Sea near Gubal Island, Egypt. Resting upright at a depth of 40 to 50 meters, this wreck is a popular, advanced, and often deep dive, featuring a largely intact structure adorned with coral and teeming with marine life, including barracuda and jacks. The Rosalie Moller is the sister ship of the world famous, and maybe the best wreck dive in the world, the Thistlegorm shipwreck. This former 108-meter-long cargo ship transporting coal has been bombed and sunk in October 1941 by a German air attack during the World War II. She lies now 55 meter deep on a sandy seabed. The main deck is 35 meter deep and the mast raised at 18 meter. You can still see on the deeper part of the wreck the huge rudder and propeller as well as the ladders and handrails all along the main deck. The ship's funnel is lying on one side. It is possible to penetrate the holds as well as the bridge, but unlike the Thistlegorm, there is little to see as most of the artifacts have been removed. The hard and soft coral is covering the hull and makes great underwater pictures opportunities. In addition, this artificial reef attracts an interesting variety of marine life with barracudas, tunas, jacks, and trevallies looking for their next meal. Inside, the Rosalie Moller is full of glassfishes, lionfishes, and groupers, and a huge marbled ray emerging from the hold. Here we dive a couple of the wrecks at Abu Nuhas Reef, the naval graveyard near Shadwan Island. In April 1983, the Ghiannis D was loaded with sawn timber at Rijeka, Croatia, destined for Saudi Arabia and Yemen. The ship made good time through the Mediterranean and down through the Suez Canal. On the 19th April 1983, she was approaching the Straits of Gobel at full speed when the ship was seen to suddenly veer sharply from her course and drive hard onto the northwest corner of Shab Abu Nuhas Reef. The crew abandoned the vessel and were safely rescued. Today, the wreck lies in 3 parts: bows, amidships, and stern. Most divers explore the stern, tilted 45 degrees to the port side, reaching 24 meters deep. The A-frame rises to 4 meters below the surface. The stern features the bridge deck and engine room, with the intact funnel and skylight providing access. The bridge is spacious with multiple entry points and an A-frame in front. The dive needs to be done in calm sea conditions, starting from the stern section, which is completely separated from the rest of the hull and is the most beautiful and interesting part of the whole wreck. It is dominated by a big winch shaped like an upside-down U that reaches up to 6 meters below the surface, and in calm seas is sometimes visible from the diving boat. The command bridge has wide openings and is well illuminated, easily accessible, and represents one of the most interesting Swimming east, with the reef on the right, divers encounter a debris field and reach the bow section, which lies on its port side with the mainmast covered in corals. The wreck of the Carnatic is situated immediately to the east of Ghiannis D and lies almost parallel to the Greek cargo vessel. The Carnatic was an elegant British vessel, built in 1862 by the London shipyard Samuda Brothers. It measures 89.9 meters long and 11.6 meters wide with a tonnage of 1,776, and belonged to the first generation of those steamers with mixed propulsion, sail, and steam. The engine was fueled by a boiler in the center of the hull, with a 4-cylinder engine that supplied the vessel with a power of 2,422 horsepower. The Carnatic, operated by P&O, Peninsular and Orient, serviced the Suez-Bombay route and sometimes went as far as China. Weighing anchor in Suez on the 12th September 1869 on its way to Bombay, the Carnatic ran aground on Reef of Abu Nuhas in the night of the 12th-13th September despite good weather conditions. One of the holds also contained 40,000 sterling in gold that was retrieved at the beginning of November 1869, but the legend lives on that some of the bullion still remains inside the hold. Most of the ship's structure today is corroded and covered by soft corals. Its exploration starts from the stern with the big propeller with 3 blades. Continue along the deck to reach the bridge and the engine room, situated at a depth of 25 meters with the boiler and propulsion machinery. On the seabed rest the 2 masts. The holds are easily accessible and host dense schools of glassfish, best observed in the early morning hours when the sunlight filters through the distinctive square portholes. The bow, with its unmistakable elegant and tapered line, rests on the reef at a depth of 16 meters. Groupers, trevallies, and lionfish swarm around the wreck, whose structure has become home for hard corals, sponges, and numerous soft corals. The wreck is of significant historical interest as it is the most important steamer found in the Red Sea. Shab El Urg Dolphinhouse is a must-visit dive site in El Gouna. The star attraction at Dolphinhouse is, of course, the resident pod of bottlenose dolphins. While sightings can never be guaranteed, the chances of encountering these friendly creatures are high. Divers and snorkelers alike often report magical experiences as dolphins swim alongside them, sometimes staying for extended periods. these encounters provide a rare opportunity to observe dolphin behavior up close, including their playful interactions with one another. Shabr Gamar, a fascinating dive site near El Gouna. The key feature of Shabr Gamar is its dramatic underwater landscape. The site offers stunning coral reefs that extend outwards with rocky formations, steep walls, and underwater plateaus to explore. Divers can discover cavities, crevices, and spectacular slopes, making for a varied and exciting diving experience. The police station, or Small Gift and Drift, is a popular dive site off the coast of Hurghada, located at the south end of Small Gifton Island. Known for its steep vertical walls, deep, vibrant Gorgonian gardens, and potential for strong currents, it is a premier spot for drift diving with depths ranging from 18 to over 100 meters.
Keep going! Go with it!